Now, even though I floated this idea in our Armored Bearger Battle Royale there, I truly wasn't looking forward to making the same video twice, so I wasn't gonna do it, but then the Crystal Deerclops went and did a couple things that really intrigued me, so here we be. And first things first, there will be no showdown with itself, nor its non-crystallized past, as none can damage the other, as you can see. And while that already separates this piece from the previous boss bonanza, it's the first bout with the dragonfly that ended up convincing myself and I to put this out here, as here's where the funkiness begins. Unlike the Armored Bearger, the Crystal Deerclops has a ranged attack that is honestly quite effective if it can continuously land the things. In fact, its 230 damage a hit is higher than the Bearger's overall. However, the quote-unquote issues begin to arise once you remember that all bosses have a sleepiness and cold resistance that builds up over time to them, so the dream scenario we just saw eventually dies. That said, another really strange thing occurs once the bosses do begin to roam free, as unless the Deerclops is right up on them and landing direct hits, the others just don't seem to care. And the really weird thing is that even when they do land direct hits, they still don't care sometimes. I was fascinated, but the problem is that's not only an oddity for a decent fight overall, but a potential headache for us throughout the entire fight as well. Yes, like the Armored Bearger, the Crystal Deerclops is always aggressive, which is a huge help, but moving fights are the bane of this thing's existence, as it's slower than the Bearger, meaning we will need to be involved to get it back to the fight more than we like. And unfortunately, this sort of repeats itself at almost every single turn with numerous select fights, even if the Deerclops itself is actually better at controlling the battlefield. But with all that out of the way, how do the rest of these battles go? Well, I ain't gonna lie to ya, surprisingly poorly. There is no doubt in my mind that the Deerclops would be better than the Bearger if it could maintain those ice spike attacks, but beyond a few moments in each and every fight, it really can't. So every single one of them is essentially gonna boil down to a normal Deerclops, which has more health and damage, versus every single boss in the game, and that is as slow and painful to witness as one would imagine. Factor in how slow of an attacker the Deerclops even is, and you're gonna lose a lot of showdowns. Trust me. So yeah, it's not a good start. And it doesn't get much better either. Shockingly enough though, the Antlion is allowed in on the action for a second straight boss video, and things do start out really well. But once the fight speeds up, and there are too many things drawing the aggro of the Deerclops away from the Antlion, while also being pushed further and further from the arena, the Antlion's gonna have time to have free reign to infinitely heal unless we continuously get involved. And getting continuously involved with an ultra aggressive, always cold, ranged attack having big bad while also potentially dodging another big bad is just not good. But hold up, Beard. What is good about this fresh face? As for right now, you are seemingly not selling a damn thing, and we probably shouldn't even bother. And you know what? You probably shouldn't, if I'm telling the truth, but if I continue to do just that, we will come to find that the Crystal Deerclops can easily knock down the normal big bad bear, the moose that looks like a goose, alongside her demon spawns with ease, and even the shadow pieces. In fact, this Deerclops does an even better job at these things than the bear at the end of the day, so score 1 for Team Ice, I guess. But that's probably the only point they're gonna get, as while it can kill the Celestial Champion in Phase 1, everything can kill Phase 1 of the Celestial Champion, so it's not a big deal. What is, however, is this apparent glitch that occurs in Phase 2 of the fight, as while we all know of the devastating power of this thing's spin attack, it's made even more so in this particular fight as it rapidly speeds up for some reason. It even gains height, which I think is why it speeds up. And we're talking close to 1,500 damage per spin cycle, even with the Deerclops' planar defense at play, everyone. Oh yeah, it is dead on arrival, and there is nothing we can do about it. So I imagine the same's gonna be for the Claws fight, right? Maybe, as this might surprise you, it's actually pretty good at it. Now you have to be extremely lucky or have trapped a deer somewhere to actually win this fight, but no joke. This Deerclops does way better in this bout than the Bearger, simply due to how it targets stuff with its smaller attack range, so as long as it can keep most of the hitting to Claws himself, it actually fares better in the long run with less of an enraged mode Claws. Now it will still absolutely lose, but I still so count this as a win at least. It's very obvious that with a few manipulations of a couple variables, the Deerclops wins. And you know what? That goes for most fights at the end of the day. But part of that idea is actually what influences the end here. Losses for the Deerclops, but worthy losses, like the twins. Once more, the fight starts out so promising, with just an endless barrage of super high damage ice spikes that can easily trap both the eyes for an extended period of time, but once the fight does start to move around, it's over. The Clops did do better than BEARDO though, and got them below half health each, so there you go. But lastly, a showdown that we've actually already witnessed. Furry death versus icy death. And at the end of the day, furries win. But it's not by much. So, there you have everyone, a guess of video about the new Crystal Deerclops versus all bosses in this game, but one where I was truly only focused on pointing out the unique differences between some fresh faces out there in the constant. And you know what I forgot to mention? If you are fighting the dragonfly with this guy, and he uses both his spikes while she's enraged, she's actually going to be able to stun him, which is quite unique. But I hope you enjoyed and realize that I'm actually not endorsing boss action this time around, but you can do you. Thanks for watching. Well wishes to all. The hot fixes are here with more coming, and they sound very, very promising, so I'll see you in those. Bye bye.